Yo-ho, Devy Junkies. Welcome to the first episode of the Devy Huddle. I am Brandon Lejeune, host of the Devy Deep Dive podcast and creator of the Devy Dashboard. And I am here with my dashboard crew for the first episode of the Devy Huddle. How you gentlemen doing tonight?
Hanging in there.
Doing great.
Everyone ready to talk some college ball, talk about week 0?
Oh, yeah.
Always. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Super excited,
right? Everyone's excited for football, right? Thursday night, we got 2 nights with that good Ohio State-Minnesota game. Should be kicking us off. It's going to be awesome. So, yeah, man. So we're going to do about 4 segments of this show. We're going to be out every Tuesday night. We're going to be live streaming next week on YouTube at 9 p.m. Eastern, which is going to be really cool. So we're going to be actually taking questions during the show, which will be great. So we're going to do a few segments tonight and talk about some Devy players, seeing if they are on your roster or not. So the first thing we are going to do is talk about week 0 players, right? We had a little taste of college football. That was kind of fun this past week, and the games weren't great, right? But we did have some Devy assets that I think we need to talk about as a group. So we're going to go around the horn here and talk about a player that we want to talk about. So we're going to call this our first segment. It's going to be the studs and duds of week 0. All right. And we're just going to talk about players and see, did they meet our expectation? Did they not meet our expectation? All right. I think the first guy we should probably all talk about, a lot of buzz going into last week's games, was Gabe Ervin, right, from Nebraska. I think I'd like to call players who rise in value exponentially over the summer Devy darlings, right? You guys have probably heard me say that, a guy gets a lot of steam, right? So I don't know. I thought his first game, he looked pretty good. I mean, the whole offense wasn't very well, didn't do very well. I thought he had that nice run when he was coming out of the end zone. But the offensive line, I don't think really helped him. I don't think Martinez really helped him, opening up the passing game. What are your guys' thoughts on Gabe Ervin? What was your first impression? If we were all so excited to watch him, what was everyone's thought?
So my first thing is it was impressive to me that he got the start as a true freshman. Getting the start was big. Like you said, they didn't play well. He did have that big run out of the end zone. And then after that, kind of everything just unraveled. So, but he got the start, so that was big for me.
Yeah, getting the start was big for sure. Can't say I was overly impressed with the tape I watched, but context matters. He's a rookie. They weren't doing him any favors with that line. I think just a couple things I noticed. He did have a couple of big runs, but looked like he was running into the back of his offensive lineman a little bit. So vision maybe wasn't, quite where he would want it to be. But again, it's his first game. I imagine that he'll improve as the year goes on. So mixed reviews.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd call him a stud or a dud for this particular segment, but I think that you're right. He got the start. And context, you're right, does matter. And I just don't know how, Nebraska, I'm just concerned about that passing game opening up anything from the running game standpoint. I mean, if they have 0 passing game and this kid decides to flash, I think that, they're going to stack the box. And if he's the focal point of that offense, as bad as Martinez played, we can talk about him next and talk about him right now. I think his Devy stock from at least hitting our rosters is probably slim to none at this point after that performance. Anybody want to pipe in?
Yeah, agree wholeheartedly. I mean, Adrian Martinez is an athlete, and we can talk about that in a positive sense, but from a Devy perspective, the dude is not going to make it to the NFL. Yeah. And he probably won't even help his team do well in college. So I don't really want to touch any of the weapons around him. The running back is going to be brought down by the bad game, just like the receivers. So
yeah,
let's hope they can correct something. The backup is a guy by the name of Logan Smothers. Name isn't great, but maybe he can play, and Scott Frost is going to have to do something if he wants to keep his job, because if that was a home game, he would not be leaving the stadium.
Yeah, there'd be a lynch mob outside waiting for him, right? So,
I was going to say, I was just going to chime in real quick on Adrian Martinez. So I was low key excited to see if he could improve, because just going through the internet, looking at different articles and different opinions, I've seen some little bit of first round buzz for him, some hype pieces. So I was kind of thinking, well, I never saw that in him personally.
Right.
But can he improve? Like, can he be a day 2 guy type of thing? And yeah, what I saw on film in that first game, he doesn't even look like he's going to get drafted to me. So
yeah, I would agree. Ronnie Rivers. Anybody think anything highly of Ronnie Rivers? He apparently just is the all-time touchdown leader now, so he's certainly been productive. But from a Devy slant, I'm not sure. Again, he is making it. In this show, again, just as an overview, is always going to be kind of leaning towards the Devy slant versus C2C. So, he's I think a 5th-year senior, so I'm not sure he's got a Devy asset on him.
So I think he does low key. He's a very good receiving back. So I think that a team may take him on day 3 with that in mind, that he's a very good receiving running back. And they tend to last a little bit longer in the NFL. So I a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, he definitely could get drafted, but I don't know. I think he's kind of pigeonholed to that role. Like, he's a little small. I think he's under 200 pounds. Getting the all-time touchdown leader for Fresno State is, pretty impressive. But like you said, 5th-year senior, those guys usually don't succeed in the NFL. Yeah. So, between that and his size, I'm not expecting him to really make an impact on dynasty rosters. He could be, low-end bench guy for a few rosters in deeper leagues, but I'm not expecting much out of him.
Yeah. I think Jake Herner, is that how you say that? Hayner. What do you guys think his future in? I think I've been seeing a lot of tweets lately that they showed that nice throw that he had in the middle of the field, and it was a long touchdown pass. I mean, what are your guys' thoughts on him? Could he be that? Because he's a junior this year, I believe. So, I mean, he is draft eligible. Could he be the Zach Wilson next year?
I had him written down as one of my studs for the week. I thought he played a great game. I was kind of excited to see him as well. Again, one of those guys that you see some hype pieces and that kind of thing. And he certainly didn't disappoint. I mean, he made some pinpoint throws. I thought he was accurate. I thought he showed some toughness. I didn't see anything that was too alarming, but, back to the whole idea of context matters. It was a really bad defensive performance. So I'd like to see how he does against a better opponent.
This week is going to be big when they play Oregon.
Yeah. Any thoughts, Christian?
I mean, I don't see an NFL future for him, really. I mean, he could possibly squeeze into day 3 with a strong year, but he's a smaller guy. I don't think he brings enough on the ground at that size, and I don't think he's special enough through the air to really make noise for us on the Devy end.
I concur. All right, Des, did you watch that UCLA game?
Yeah, I watched a little bit of it.
Anybody flash in that game? I mean, I can't really think of anyone.
He actually surprised me. I really, you kind of put me onto him, I guess, from being on the dashboard and people talk about in a couple of the films you have. And I wasn't really too impressed, but he kind of showed out this Saturday and kind of made me kind of relook at him again.
Right.
Kind of see if maybe he could be a possibility of somebody that you kind of want on your Devy roster and possibly go to the NFL. But we'll see. I don't know. It's just one game, and we'll just see how it goes forward. I guess to see what he does, the next game and going forward.
Yeah, he's got LSU, I think, coming up. So, I think his value is going to be very interesting now.
Yeah,
I mean, he may fall into that Debbie Darling thing. If he shows out at LSU, let's say he goes 100 yards and 2 TDs. I mean, the Debbie community is going to go insane. I can see Casey. His lips are. He can't wait to say something. What is it?
No, I mean, listen. I think everyone that is in Debbie right now, Debbie managers, all these leagues. Zach Charbonnet's drafted, right? We're just holding the bag on this guy. Everyone already owns him. We're just waiting for his stock to hopefully go back up. This guy out of Michigan, we're screaming he's finally free from Michigan. Yay. It was obviously the Michigan coaching staff. The dude got 6 carries, folks. 6 carries, 100 yards. I mean, against pretty darn weak competition. You watch with the eyes, he's got a little wiggle, little juice. But, realistically, I squint and I see Latavius Murray. At ceiling. I see guys that aren't, world beaters in terms of your fantasy roster. And so I think, not everyone watched week 0. This is an opportune time. I mean, maybe his stock does go up, but against weak competition. He lit it up. I'm going to look to sell to somebody and say, hey, look, he's back. It was just Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
He's great. Buy him, please. Let me package him with, some other receiver that I don't like John Mechie, and give me Jamar Gibbs. Give me Tank Bigsby. Something like that. I don't know that swings it, because I think most people will go.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
Yes, please.
Maybe you get Garrett Wilson out of it.
Yeah.
People will say they want to buy Zach Charbonnet, and then they'll offer you some third string out of Hawaii or something.
Yeah.
Sure. Calvin Turner coming your way.
All right, so let's see. Raise of hands. Who says he's a sell right now?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, and who says he's a buy?
I say he's a hold for me.
Yeah,
right.
I'm with Rich. I'd say he's a hold.
All right.
I'd say he's a hold.
Yeah, I think it's a sell depending on where what kind of value you can get. Otherwise, it would be a hold for me as well.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, if I can get something big in return, then yes, I'll sell any player, or I'll trade any player. But I think right now he's a hold for me.
Yeah, I think you got to wait a few more games.
I seem to be the only buy, so let me chime in there on the buy. So this is a running back class to where the top two seems pretty entrenched at the top with Breece Hall and Isaiah Spiller, whatever way you prefer it. Brandon, started the episode with some concerns for Eric Gray, or maybe that was before we went live, but talked about Eric Gray. Kyron Williams is another guy that comes up as that third guy. To me, the number 3 back in this class is wide open. And I think what Zach Charbonnet showed us this weekend is that he's a contender to be that number 3 back in this class. And, say he puts up 1,000 yards rushing and a 10 touchdown season at UCLA, which I don't think is far-fetched at all. We're going to see that stock rise, especially with some of the highlight plays that he dropped this weekend. I mean, what did he average? 17 yards a carry this weekend? I mean, none of those touchdowns were goal line carries. Those were long runs where he made people miss. So if he continues to put up highlights like that, puts up 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns on the ground, this is a guy that weighs 220 pounds. I mean, if he's putting that kind of stuff out there at 220, this is a guy I will not be surprised to see at that running back 3 spot in this class. And if he ascends that high, you're going to see the perception on his value change quite a bit, because right now we just have him in this big group of the guys that we have maybe ranked 5 to 15. But if he really entrenches himself with that kind of season, and we're looking at him as potentially the RB3 in the NFL draft, that's a pretty big value increase from where he is right now. So, I think he's pretty cemented for some work this year, and, I'll take my chances that he's not going to go any lower than he is right now based on what I saw last week and what I saw as a freshman.
I love it. Yeah, it sounds a lot like my Tyler Algier shares. Guy that last year. Hey, man, I should actually put him. So we're going to go to a next segment right now, okay? It's going to be the burning question of the week, all right? And I came up with one. I said, what player can't you wait to watch week 1? What player have you been just chomping at the bit all summer and saying, oh, my God, I can't wait for that first game that my player – all right. I'm going to go last on this one. So we're going to go around the horn. Casey, who was your guy?
Sure. I'll talk him up. You probably already know him. His name's Bryce Young. I mean, this is a quarterback that we've been waiting to see. He's taken over the keys to Alabama. He's already got all of the money coming in from the NIL deals that he's seemingly scored. We're finally going to really get a piece of his game action. We saw a few snaps last season. Didn't really show anything special, but we literally had just such a small sample size. So it'd be interesting to see what actually happens there. He's not a tall guy. I mean, that hasn't limited people in the past. Or I guess in recent years, we've seen Kyler Murray come out do well as a small dude. But I think. Hey,
Casey, that echo's coming back.
Okay. Well, I'll just wrap it up and say I'm excited to see Bryce Young against Miami.
Okay, cool. All right, we got Christian. Who you got?
I've got to go Homer style here. Joe Milton from Tennessee, baby. Getting the QB1 job. Thursday night, Tennessee's kicking off. I know we mentioned Ohio State, Minnesota, but Tennessee's playing at 8 o'clock. Joe Milton will be getting the start. This is a guy that's 6'5", 245, dual threat quarterback, throw the ball 80 yards in the air. He has every physical tool that you can imagine to be an NFL quarterback. His college career has obviously been all over the board so far. Part of that could be that he played for Michigan. I mean, we saw Zach Charbonnet show us this week that if you get away from Michigan, you could look pretty awesome. So maybe Joe Milton can catch that same lightning in a bottle and take off with this Tennessee job. He is the only quarterback on the roster that Josh Heupel selected since he took the job. So I think most of us that follow the Tennessee program closely, saw Milton getting this job for a while now. So I for one, am excited that an offensive mind like Heupel has hand-selected this athletic freak to be the quarterback. And, what do we have to lose as Tennessee fans? I mean, we're going 6-6 this year regardless, so may as well give this guy the keys and see what happens.
Oh, all my Harrison Bailey shares just plummeting in value as we speak, right? All right, Des, who are you looking forward to watching this week? Week 1.
I'm gonna go with Spencer Rattler, man. All summer, I would have to even say when I first got into Devy, he was one of the first few names that I heard, along with like DJU, Brent, and Bijan. But I really started liking him, like the Oklahoma offense, very high power offense. They're coming in number 2 in the nation. So he has a chance to be a Heisman candidate and winning it all, and also winning the national championship candidate as well with Oklahoma. So I'm really excited to see in the offense with Mario Williams and Theo Weiss and Marvin Mims and the other, we talked about even with Eric Gray.
Sure.
And you got Kennedy Brooks, coming back, and coming in there. So I'm very excited to see that offense. I'm very excited to see him play this year.
He certainly has the weapons. You know what I mean? So, Sam, who you got?
I'm hyped for Zamir White, man. I mean, I think, Christian, you were talking about, the potential RB3 for this upcoming class. Yeah, I don't think you mentioned Zamir. I felt a little bit disrespected by that. He's one of my favorites to take that spot. He's got a few issues, 2 of them being his right knee and his left knee. But, I'd just love to see him come out healthy. He's had a good test, I think, starting out against Clemson. He can come out and have a 100-yard game against one of the best teams in the nation. I assume it's on national TV. Put himself on the map and launch himself into the conversation for one of the top backs in the class. Really excited to see him do it.
Yeah, I agree with Christian, and it's going to be a horse race. I mean, it's going to be really fascinating to see, who Javonte Williams, who's going to be that third guy on everyone's list, So, Daniel, who you got?
Yeah, love your call there, Sam, man. I'm a big Zamir guy as well. Really, I love that whole Georgia offense, which is why I'm going and planting my flag on my guy, JT Daniels. So I know there's a lot of mixed reviews about JT Daniels. Some project first-round pick, others, somewhere in the mid-rounds. But I think he has all the tools, man. He's a 5-star prospect, former 5-star prospect. He's had some shit luck with injuries, I think he came on strong last year in those last 4 games. I liked what I saw. A lot of, certainly there's some things he needs to clean up. He's got that gunslinger mentality that I love in quarterbacks, but it also gets him into trouble when he's throwing it into triple coverage. But I think he has the tools needed to succeed. And I think that if he can uplift that offense, that they have legitimate title contention capabilities. And I think he's got a real shot, at winning the Heisman and potentially getting into the first round. So I'm planting my flag on JT.
Wouldn't that be something if he ended up being the third guy and just balled out this year? Hey, you never know, right? Rich, who you got?
All right, so my flag plant is on somebody that I actually think is going to be the QB3. We have to wait until Monday to watch him. So Matt Corral, the quarterback from Ole Miss. The kid has an unbelievable arm, excellent accuracy. He's mobile, just like the NFL is looking for. The big problems is he needs to improve his decision making. Sometimes he forces the ball into tight coverage. He's not going to get away with that in the NFL. And then he has to get away from what I call the meltdown games. So he had 14 interceptions last year. 11 of them were in 2 games. If you take out the LSU and the Arkansas games, he only had 3 interceptions all season. So he needs to show that mental toughness to be able to overcome an early turnover and avoid those big turnover games. I think he does that in year 2 of that Lane Kiffin offense. And I think that he actually does become that QB3, similar to the Zach Wilson rise from last year.
Yeah, I got him number 3 right now. I think he's the toughest quarterback in all of college football. I mean, the way he runs the ball and takes shots and puts his head in there, he's not afraid of contact. So it definitely has the arm strength. It's everything. I mean, all the guys have some flaw. I mean, even Spencer Rattler and Howell, I think all still have flaws in their games, that they need to work out. So my guy's Marshawn Lloyd. I have him in almost every C2C league, and I'm going to die on my hill with this guy. I've watched a lot of high school tape. And his lateral movement when you watched his high school film was like very impressive. I said that's one of the reasons I drafted him in a lot of leagues last year, and I'm really hoping he can overtake Kevin Harris. I saw the depth chart come out, and some other guy named Quadre White is apparently, but this says or with all three of them. So it's probably going to be a timeshare. I'm just hoping his lateral ability, his burst and speed, shine through, and that he is the undisputed starter. So super bummed last year when he got the ACL injury. He's back now. I don't know if he's 100%, might not be, but hopefully he's getting, there. But so I'm super excited. I'm hoping to see at least a glimpse of him this week, at least a little bit. So, all right, man, we're going to go to our bold predictions of the week. And I've asked each of these guys to name who their which freshman is going to break out this year, right? We got a couple freshmen that have been, named as starters. The first guy I'm going to talk about is my guy, Troy Franklin. I fell in love with this kid after watching his spring game. I did a film and put it on the YouTube channels, shared it with all these gentlemen here on the dashboard. He looks like he's a little undersized. He's a little thin, but I love his length. I love his vertical ability. He really showed out, made some impressive catches in the spring game. He's been named a starter. So, I mean, I'm hoping he comes out. I have lots of shares of him in my leagues. I think he just has that alpha looking mentality out there on the field. And the fact that, again, we talked earlier about, Irvin's getting on the field as a freshman starting, the fact that he's starting on the wide receiver crew, at Oregon too. And I think he's going to be that vertical play. I think Oregon has a lot of good wide receivers this year. So they might actually do pretty well in the Pac-12 this year. So Troy Franklin's my guy. So Rich, we'll go back around the horn. Who do you got?
All right. So my guy is actually Xavier Worthy, wide receiver out of Texas. He has been lighting up the camp. There's been reports for quite a few weeks that he's been really doing well. And I think that I want the up-and-coming freshman out of that Texas offense with Steve Sarkisian there. I think he's going to do great things. Yeah, I mean,
I labeled him as a Debbie darling lately. I don't think there's been one guy that's risen more, than Xavier Worthy. I mean, he's on everyone's list. I put a tweet out and saying, who can't you wait to watch? And he was like, every other one had Xavier Worthy. So everyone's like super excited. It looks like Card got that job, so he's another guy we're going to have to keep an eye on to see if he can live up to the billing of, his high recruiting status. So, Daniel, who was your, which freshman you think is going to break out this week?
Yeah, so this may be a bit of a chalk pick, but I'm going with Travion Henderson. Look, he's the hype train has left the station, right? I mean, we're all aware of who he is. I don't specifically know what his ADP is offhand. I know it's somewhere in the early to mid-second round. I think it's somewhere in there anyways. But look, he's got all the tools. I think there's talk that, that he might not play a whole lot, that it'll be, he'll be in a timeshare with Master Teague. But Master Teague to me is just a guy. I mean, I don't see any elite traits in him. And I think it's very possible that Travion just takes that job and runs with it this year. And, next year we'll be talking about him in the same vein as Bijan. So that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It'll be really interesting. I think everyone can't wait for that first 100-yard game breakout. I mean, everyone's going to go insane, right? So, Sam, who was your, what freshman you think is going to break out this week?
Yeah, it could be a bit of a chalk pick as well because he's a 5-star, but Ja'Cory Brooks, I think, that Alabama wide receiver room is pretty wide open. I know we got John Mechie there. He's got his role, but I don't think he's a guy that's going to dominate targets. I think he's going to, get some work, but leave plenty of room for someone else. After the spring game, I think the attention's kind of been on Hall, and I think Brooks' stock kind of dropped a little bit when he posted that poor 40 time. I think he posted like a 4.8 or something, but he's a track athlete. He's had good track times, and, you turn on his tape and he's running away from everyone. I'm not saying he's going to be Tyreek speed, but I really think it was just like a bad testing day or something like that. Cause you watch him play and he doesn't look slow. He's already got basically NFL size as a true freshman, 6'3", like 190, I believe. And I think he's going to have the opportunity to go out there and get a lot of targets right away.
Yeah, I talked about it on my podcast how interesting it's going to be for all of these big programs. A lot of new faces for, Clemson and Ohio State, Alabama, all over, the skill positions. It's going to be, certainly exciting. Hey, Des, who'd you pick, man?
Yeah, I went I'm going to piggyback off of Sam actually because I picked another Alabama freshman and I went with Jojo Errol. I really liked him when I first started watching a few film and tape on him. He's a little undersized, but he's really quick, nice burst and everything. I think he could be really dangerous in that offense where they can use him all over that offense. Where, and what I was really excited about was I seen that he is right behind Slade Bolton in the offense. So I think it could be early playing time for him. And if he can do something early, he can probably take over that role and really show that he can be a really true freshman and come in and take over. I really like him.
Yeah, he could be like the Waddle replacement. I think he's going to play on special teams too. So, he should make some noise, with punt returns and stuff like that. Christian, who did you select?
I actually have the same guy as you, Brandon. For me, it's Troy Franklin. So this is a guy I've been crazy about in the recruiting process. I mean, he's incredibly explosive. He's got great hands. What I think really sets him apart is he gets into his routes and off the line quicker than any high schooler I've seen recently. I think he's just an incredible wide receiver prospect. And looking at the recruiting rankings, I mean, he was ranked ahead of Ajayi Hall by a few spots in the recruiting rankings. And if you look at that to ADP now as true freshman, Ajayi Hall is going 5 rounds ahead of Troy Franklin. I'm not telling you to go pick Troy Franklin over Ajayi Hall, but 5 rounds, I mean, that is too much of a discrepancy for a very similar rated recruit that is already starting at Oregon. So give me a player that I'm in love with that has already earned the starting job and quite frankly is going at a massive discount compared to peers that are ranked similarly to him. So I'm all over Troy Franklin from Oregon.
Yeah, and he put out a statement. It was a few months ago that he said he's going to be the first round running back taken from Oregon in like 30 something years or something. He's like, I'm going to be that guy who's going to put Oregon back on the map on the wide receiver room. So, hey, you got to love that confidence, right? Got to love that. So,
Absolutely.
Casey.
Yeah, let's see if that echoes back.
Oh, you're good, buddy. I think you're good.
Cool. Then I'm happy to talk about a guy who probably won't break out. So take a deep breath here. But he's actually going to be the backup running back for North Carolina. His name's Caleb Hood. He's a freshman. Most people know of Kamaro Edmonds as the freshman to own. That's a name that most Devy people will recognize. But Caleb Hood came in early. He actually, I believe, played quarterback in high school. So he's an athlete, not a guy that we get to see a lot of tape on as a pure running back. And he came in and they seemed to really love him. And Kamaro Edmonds didn't enroll early. He's there. I think I might have heard something about an injury, but Caleb Hood is already listed on the depth chart as the second back. So, Ty Chandler's probably only going to be there for a year. And then you want to look at who comes next. And Caleb Hood already has the size. He already apparently has the juice. So I'm looking to see what he can do. Looking to see if he gets any snaps.
Yeah, it's just like the best part of Devy for me are these freshmen coming in, especially when you play C2C, right? We already have them on our rosters, and now it's just a waiting game, right? You got them and see which guys flash, which don't. I mean, that's what just got me into Devy just to begin with is those taxi squads and having those players that they're yours forever. Like it's such a beautiful word when you have a player that's breaking out and you got them forever, right? All right, man. So we're going to go to the last segment of the show. We're going to talk about our week 1 game outlooks. And so we all talked about it. We're going to talk about a game, that we're excited to watch and give a little reasoning as to why we want to watch that game. So I'll start this segment. And to me, it's North Carolina at Virginia Tech. This was a one for me that I'm just super interested in this game for Sam Howell. All right, I want to see now what is he going to be able to do that he lost the productive running backs. He lost his 2 productive wide receivers. He's got Josh Downs there. He's got Ty Chandler, who caught a few balls, I believe, at Tennessee. Christian, he caught some balls out of Tennessee, didn't he? Ty Chandler?
He did.
Yeah. So he's got that pass catching ability. But Sam Howell's got this, I just looked at 5 mock drafts today, and he is in the top 5 of the 5 that were posted today, right? So he's a first round pick. Right now it's Rattler, Hal Rattler, and then, I'm sure on this show we'll get into a big debate as to who the third quarterback could possibly be in this class. But in the meantime, so he, if he can have the same productivity and raise the value of his receivers, get that production, limit the mistakes with all of this new incoming, wide receivers that he's got to lean on, I think it's going to actually increase his draft stock. So I'm super excited. There's two ways that he can go with this. Either he can go out there and not look very good, and because he doesn't have the running game, they're not scared about the running game. They're going to just really focus on the passing to eliminate Sam Howell from, picking them apart in the secondary. How's he going to adjust? How's he, that's the name of the game, right? He does his thing. Defense then changes their game plan. How's that offensive going to react and put him in a position to succeed? So to me, I'll be watching Sam Howell all season. I think it's going to be a really interesting thing just to see how he does with the lack of production. So that was my game that I chose. Rich, what did you think? What game are you excited to watch? There's many of them.
Yeah, so the game that I'm most excited is Penn State versus Wisconsin. Being a Penn State fan, obviously personal reasons that I want to see that. But on the Devy side, I want to see how does Noah Cain perform. All right, so he got hurt in the first game last year, was out for the season. There's a lot of talk that he's going to be hopefully good enough to go to our dynasty teams. I want to see how he performs. I want to see if Sean Clifford can support the receiving people, the receivers on that team. Parker Washington, Jahan Dotson. We love both of those. Theo Johnson, the tight end, taking over for Pat Freiermuth. Can Sean Clifford support all three of those? And then on the Wisconsin side, I want to see Graham Mertz. How does he operate that offense? Jalen Berger is listed as the number 2 on the depth chart. I think that has to do with a minor injury that he had during camp. So I want to see if he gets touches and how does he handle those touches. So that's what I'm going to be looking for.
Yeah, I equally am very interested. I live not too far from. Well, I live 3 hours from Penn State. It's not around the corner, but yeah, I mean everything that I'm reading too. They're talking about Cain getting at least the shot at being the guy. So, and I'm a Dotson fan. I think he could go top 5 wide receivers next year. Given after the top 2 or 3, 4 or 5 guys, I think he's like number 6 in my dashboard right now. So, yeah, I love it. I'm really excited to see how that backfield shakes out. So, Daniel, what game did you choose?
Yeah, so I'm going with the Clemson Georgia game.
Let me guess. JT Daniels.
Yeah, that's definitely part of it. That's what it is. I'm excited to see JT go against a really good defense. Elite competition. I want to see how he responds to that. But this, both sides are just littered with. You want to talk about Debbie Darlings, right? I mean, we got them all over the place. So, I'm excited to see JT, Jermaine Burton, another guy that I'm really high on. I think he's primed for a big game. It looks like I don't think Gilbert's going to play. It doesn't look like he's with the team still. So Darnell Washington's dealing with something. So I think Jermaine's going to get peppered with a lot of targets. Again, that running game, Zamir, I'm a big fan of Zamir. I also like Milton. So I'm excited about, the Georgia offensive playmakers. And on the other side, Clemson, DJU coming in for his first start as the unquestioned starter. So how does he respond, right? He's taken over for Trevor Lawrence, I mean, what can we say? One of the highest rated quarterbacks of all time coming out. So, there's a bit of pressure there. I'd like to see how he does against Georgia, who's also, I think, it looks like a really good defense on paper. Who steps up at wide receiver for Clemson? That's another thing I'm going to be watching for. Running back as well, but with wide receiver, I like EJ Williams. Justin Ross, right? I think we're all kind of anticipating how he looks coming off that neck surgery that he had,
Sure.
That.
Don't forget Joe Nagata.
Yeah. I was going to mention him. He was on the lesser side of.
Yeah, I've got a lot of shares of him. I did a film study on him. Was like one of my first ones. I really liked what I saw. He's a physical guy. So, but
right.
I agree with you. It's like I said. It's all these big programs have so many new toys and new pieces. It's going to be interesting to see how it all pans out.
Yeah, and it's a primetime game. That one's going to be fun.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, Sam, what game did you pick?
Yeah, I mean, Georgia Clemson is going to be obviously the main one I'm tuning into, but I'm really interested to see UCLA versus LSU as well. We kind of touched on it a little bit when we talked about UCLA, how, it'll be interesting to see what Zach Charbonnet can do against some real competition. Obviously, he ran all over Hawaii, but that's Hawaii. Can he? LSU is ranked 14th, I think. They're actually only 3-point favorites, so it looks like they're giving some respect to UCLA after that big game. So it should be a fun matchup. Also, Greg Dulcich. I know he didn't do much in the first game, but it's one game. He had a super productive year last year. I'd like to see him pick it up. And then obviously on the LSU side, we got Kayshawn. I mean, we all know him. We all love him. We know he's a beast. Just from an entertainment standpoint, it'll be fun to watch him. And just, if someone wants to tune in for some entertainment and just watch Kayshawn every single snap, not care about anyone else, I'm sure they'll have a great time. But also, Max Johnson with Miles Brennan going down to injury. Max Johnson really has an opportunity. He looked pretty good in a couple of games last year. So, I'm not convinced yet that he's going to be on our dynasty rosters, but definitely someone to tune into, see what he can do. And a couple, exciting young freshmen. Dion Smith, wide receiver, looks like he should be one of the top 3 or 4 receivers to start, so he might get some targets in the first game. And then Corey Kiner looks like he's kind of buried a little bit for now on the depth chart, but if he does get a few attempts, that'll be interesting to see what they think of him. If not, then that'll be kind of a note that maybe he hasn't had as good a spring as maybe some owners would like, just because they do have some upperclassmen ahead of him, but it's not really like a star-studded backfield that if Corey Kiner can't take over pretty quick, then maybe he's nothing special.
Yeah, you talk about John Emery Jr. He was a first-round pick, 3 years ago, across the board, and yeah, I don't know. Doesn't sound like it's going to work out for him. It should be interesting to see if he can rebirth his career at all. Des, what game are you looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to the Bama and Miami game on Saturday afternoon. I'm just getting back into college football. These are one of the 2 historic programs, in my opinion. I really like both of those programs coming up, Bama and definitely the Hurricanes, especially with a lot of their athletes coming and they're going to the league, like Ed Reed, Adrian James, and things like that. But I'm just really excited to see Bryce Young. I'm really excited to see him because he was hyped up a lot. We can see what's going on with the Bama backfield with Roydell and Brian Robinson and Jace. That'll be exciting to see how that shakes up. And then just like the wide receivers, of course, you're going to see what they're going to do with Mechie. You got the freshmen. And then, of course, for the Hurricanes, I'm definitely looking forward to see how Derek King comes back from his injury. He was a very good quarterback that I seen coming up, and he was definitely a very good quarterback prior to his injury. So I'd like to see how he rebounds from that. And then you have like Charleston Rambo, and I think I actually seen today. I think Keyshawn Smith is going to be starting. That's very exciting. I have him on a few rosters.
Me too. That's good news.
Yeah, I have him on a few C2C rosters, so I'm very excited to see that. I grabbed him really late, but I'm a Canes fan, so I got a few of those guys on there. So you got like Don Chaney and the other the running backs on there. We'll see how they, Cameron Harris, how that works out. So I'm really excited about to see that game because they're just really big programs. I want to see Saban. I'm a big Saban guy, so continue to be excellent and continue to win and get our guys to the league and be on our rosters. So I'm a big Bama fan. So yeah, I'm excited about that game.
What's the spread on that game? Like 400 or?
I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm really, I don't know how close it's gonna be, but we'll see how it goes. Man.
That's right. All you're doing is watching your players, right? You don't care about the score. You're just watching your players.
Absolutely.
So, I love it. I love it. Christian, what game did you pick?
I went with San Jose State and USC, not because Nick Starkel threw for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns last week, but because USC has a ton of Devy talent, and some of it needs a little bit of rehabilitation, and I'm excited to see how that rehabilitation goes. So starting off with their quarterback, Keaton Slovis, we saw that tremendous freshman year where he threw for 3,500 yards, 30 touchdowns, only 9 picks. But then last year, some severe regression from him down to, 1,921 yards, 17 touchdowns, 7 picks, so nowhere near as good of a season. He apparently was playing a little bit hurt last year, but I mean, my God, what a regression that was. I'm looking forward to seeing if he can, regain that form that we saw his freshman year and really, be that third quarterback that he once was in this class. Outside of that, I mean, Keontae Ingram coming over from Texas to USC. This is a guy that in his freshman and sophomore year at Texas carried the ball 286 times for 1,500 yards, 10 touchdowns, caught 56 balls through the air for another 412 and 5 touchdowns. I mean, just tremendous production at Texas early. I mean, he's got the size, that 220-pound frame with the pass-catching ability. He's a guy that if he can come out here in this offense can hit on all levels. He's another one of those that can be going for that running back 3 spot in this class. Then you got Drake London, the huge basketball player, style, athlete, wide receiver, 6'5", 210, taking the number 1 role, will lead the team in targets for the first time in his career out there. So I'm looking to see how he takes on that alpha role. And then even outside of those guys, I mean, the rest of the wide receiver room, there's a ton of talent littered through there, whether it's, Gary Bryant, Taj Washington, Jake Smith, Kyle Ford. I mean, they're just loaded with guys that could blow up but don't have tremendous stock right now. So to me, they're a really exciting Devy team to watch because, we could have a couple first-round picks in the NFL or we could have some guys that are irrelevant to us. So, big range of outcomes for USC this year, but a lot of names that could get us excited.
Oh, well, without a doubt. And one thing that I'm looking really forward to is seeing Drake London, get out of the slot, play outside, and face press coverage. I don't know if you guys saw the video breakdown I did on him.
Yeah, I did. I was just going to say, yeah. I
remember
you talking about that.
A lot of his touches were manufactured, through running in the middle of the field in zones and, not trying to take anything away from the player, but I didn't see one press coverage at all, like the entire season, not one. And I watched almost every one of his, snaps where he was the target. So, and I'm a big Keontae Ingram fan too. I love that. I mean, I want to see if he just needs to stay healthy. I'll be like every week I'll be like, no injury. You know what I mean? Because he's been nicked up a lot. So, but he's got to get rid of that label as the injury bug. But I agree with you 100%, Christian. I think he could rise up that board big time with a big season, stay healthy. He is that 3 down back and has that capability. I mean, he was electric his freshman year. Electric. So, oh, yeah. Casey, what team did you pick?
For me, I'm definitely interested in seeing Texas against Louisiana. As you guys can probably guess, the main reason there would be Texas. I feel like the past 2 years or so have just been a disappointment from Texas regarding Devy assets.
Yeah.
I mean, Sam Ehlinger, wasn't always a high-tier guy, but doesn't look like that's really a great one. Man, I wanted to believe that Brendan Eagles would be something, and I think he just got cut by Dallas. And speaking of the devil, Keontae Ingram was looking like he might be the next thing, and then he gets hurt, and then he ships off to USC. But things are looking like we got a new crop of guys that we might have hope in. You got the wonderful Bijan Robinson that's going first, second, or third in just about every Devy draft out there. There's the big competition over the summer for the starting quarterback between Hudson Card, Casey Thompson. You've got Sarkisian there, at the helm. And then you got young guys like Xavier Worthy. You got Omier in the background that, he came out as, I think, a third-string receiver, but there are talks of injury. Who knows? I mean, I know we already talked about Xavier Worthy, but guys, Texas is moving to the SEC, and you've got 160-pound freshman receiver starting for Texas. Like, that's crazy. That's crazy. So I'm pumped for it. I want to see it. And then from a C2C side, I guess I'll watch Louisiana, see how Chris Smith does, taking over for Trey Ragas and who's the other guy there? Elijah Mitchell.
Right. Cool. Well, that is our last segment of the show. Any final parting words, gentlemen? It's been great. We're going to do this every Tuesday night at 9:00. And man, next week we're going to have so much to talk about. The show might be an hour and a half. It's going to be so many players. You're not even going to be able to make a decision on, who we want to talk about. There's going to be so many guys. So I'm like so excited. We got the NFL right around the corner as well. So gentlemen, I want to thank you again for joining me on this, the Devy Huddle venture. looking forward to being with you guys all season and just talking Devy football and try and help our viewers make those right picks. So thanks, gentlemen, for joining in.
Absolutely.
Appreciate
I'm
it.
pumped.
Thanks for having us.
Sure thing.
All right.
See you guys next week.
Take care,
Bye.
guys.